The way exclusive titles are being released has always made it almost impossible to play through everything and forced gamers to settle on a PC and one home console or a handheld. Bigger budgets and bigger stakes make exclusive games even more important than they were back in the day. Buying a new console doesn't necessarily mean keeping specs or features in mind, but it's more about a certain IP that we can't see anywhere else. The market has changed a lot since the PS2 era and the original Xbox. Microsoft has weakened the X1 library by the Play Anywhere feature, Nintendo is slowly warming up to the mobile market, and more classic games are being released on Steam. Despite various multi-platform re-releases and HD remasters, some titles are still unplayable on the PC even to this date. And today I want to talk about those, but not going into obvious picks like Uncharted or God of War. I want to talk about console exclusives that weren't released on the PC as they were intended to because of some troubles behind the scenes. Since the conception of Call of Duty, the franchise has seen 13 major releases in the main series, with only one of them not being playable on the PC, and that is Call of Duty 3. Call of Duty 3, released back in 2006, comes from a completely different era of the series, as it was set in World War II and was the second Call of Duty from Treyarch, who were never afraid to experiment. And even their previous title, Call of Duty Big Red 1 from 2005, was quite original. Instead of featuring various heroes and using that to showcase varied episodes, it focused entirely on the titular Big Red 1 unit, featuring levels in Africa, Italy, France or Germany. The idea was carried over to Call of Duty 3, but here, Treyarch focused on depicting one detailed campaign, the Battle for Normandy, from different points of view. No matter how promising it would seem at first, the game wasn't on par with other Call of Duty titles, and was just, well, okay. Treyarch couldn't offer the same scripts and quality Infinity Ward spoiled us with, and it was obvious that they had some problems with development. As it's always the case with ports, it was all a matter of money and the engine. Treyarch was developing Call of Duty 3 on the Treyarch NGL engine that only appeared on PC twice, in games like Ultimate Spider-Man and Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer, which gives you a clue, doesn't it? It comes as no surprise that Call of Duty 3 was the last time Treyarch used the engine, and since then has moved to a different one called IW Engine, and well, their every next game was always playable on the PC.
We've always known the darkness would return.
Bungie were always on good terms with Microsoft. However, when they finished the fight and let Master Chief to rest, they wanted to start a new multi-platform IP, which later came to life as Destiny. It wasn't easy nor cheap to start from scratch and create a new universe and gameplay that combined both elements of single and multiplayer. Industry specialists estimate a budget ranging from $140 million to even $500 million, making it probably one of the most expensive games in history. It seems that with so much money put into development, it would be affordable to put out the PC port too. After all, what better place for an online game than the PC, right? Well, as a matter of fact, Destiny was a problematic game from the start, being developed for both the new and the old platforms. And it was quite visible too. The PS4 version is hindered by 30 FPS, the graphics could have been better, and focusing at the same time on the PS3 and the 360 versions surely took its toll on the final product. Bungie explained time and time again the omission of the PC version, having been preoccupied with supporting the older platforms. If the developer decided to skip the last-gen hardware, it would have been much easier to put some of the workforce to making a PC port and not having to explain time and time again why Destiny was a console exclusive. In my opinion, the PC gamers haven't missed out on much, as the game is in many ways similar to titles like Borderlands, but it's obvious that Bungie cares about the so-called master race, as the rumored Destiny 2 is said to be simultaneously being developed for both PS4, X1 and the PC.
They call it bad company. A mismatched bunch of rejects placed to serve our country as cannon fodder.
EA's DICE was always a developer who was more keen on PCs than consoles, and many Battlefields they did throughout the years were PC exclusives. I'm talking here about Battlefield 1942, Battlefield Vietnam, and Battlefield 2142. Back when the series was starting out, the consoles were not offering the online capabilities of modern systems, so PCs seemed like an obvious choice, taking into account Battlefield's scope and ambition. Contemporary consoles were simply too weak to fully bring to life DICE's vision, and the mediocre Battlefield 2 for PS2 is a perfect example of that. However, EA's priorities changed drastically with the arrival of PS3 and Xbox 360, and so in 2008, fans could get their hands on Battlefield Bad Company. Bad Company was the first game in the series to tell a story, it had great destruction of environment, and was the first Battlefield to feature the Frostbite engine, which offered yet unseen vistas. Apart from all of that, Bad Company marked the first time in the series a Battlefield was a console exclusive. Nearing the release of the game, there was no word of the PC port, which sadly never came out. And that was probably because there was the first time DICE tried to implement Frostbite, and the studio itself had some problems at that time. And that's actually kind of a shame, because the open-ended mission structure in the game made for some fun times to be had. Baldurs Gate is rightfully considered to be a milestone for the RPG genre, which ushered in a renaissance of sorts, which resulted in many instant classics from studios like Interplay. Sadly though, the aforementioned renaissance wasn't that long, as the era of MMOs and sandbox games was dawning on the gaming world. Back in 2002, we could see a huge paradigm shift happening on the market. The fondly remembered Icewind Dale 2, in the end, was overshadowed by Morrowind, released the same year, which, despite not having a good story and narrative, had a tremendous world and breathtaking graphics. Despite putting successful titles on the market in those years, Interplay ran into some financial troubles. The industry legend Brian Fargo left the studio, which was taken over later by a different company, and home consoles were becoming more popular each day. In face of all of that, Interplay got desperate to make ends meet and announced a console title, a hack-and-slash Baldurs Gate in 2001 by the name of Dark Alliance. It offered neat graphics, robust character progression, and satisfying effects like an ability to set our adversaries on fire or cut off their limbs. It may not have been true to what the Baldur's Gate name stood for, but overall it was a very good hack-and-slash at the same time, and it was quite obvious that the game would sooner or later be playable on the PC, the platform where the genre's debut, Diablo, was first playable at. The PC port was soon announced and outsourced to a yet unknown developers, CD Projekt Red, the creators of the Witcher franchise. Interplay didn't want to invest in Dark Alliance on the PC, and the project was entirely on CD Projekt's hands. Sadly though, the Polish studio wasn't experienced enough to handle a port, and soon after Dark Alliance PC was announced, it had gone dark, and Interplay itself backed out of the partnership with CD Projekt Red. Bad Company 1 is not the only Battlefield that never came out on the PC. A year after the release of Bad Company, the Master Race suffered yet another blow in the form of Battlefield 1943. Even more saddening was the fact that it was the last time before Battlefield 1 to experience historical events, as the series would from now on focus on the modern Battlefield. A few weeks before 2009 console-only release, DICE officials informed us that the PC version was being pushed back a little to make it better than the original and fully capitalize on the opportunities the platform was offering. Next to that promising statement, the developers at DICE claimed that it would be the first PC game to feature Frostbite, and the extensive wait was going to be worth it, as the company wanted to completely satisfy their fans. However, in 2009 we learned that the game was being pushed to 2010, and when the year finally came, EA started to do refunds on pre-orders that could have meant only one thing: the official cancellation of the port in 2011. While loss of a promising game surely is saddening, it's not actually something to get angry about. At that time, DICE was experimenting with various distribution models and ideas. Battlefield 1943 was a test of a console-only digital release, while PCs soon after got their own Battlefield games, Battlefield Heroes in 2008 and Battlefield Play for Free in 2009. Let's not forget that soon after that, in 2010, we got the amazing Battlefield Bad Company 2, which surely demanded all of the developers' attention. Near the release of Battlefield 1943, the market was oversaturated with Battlefield games, so releasing it would have diverted some of the attention from the PC free-to-play Battlefields DICE was making at that time.
I've been hearing about your plans.
Have you, Miss McFarland?
Yes, from Lee Johnson, to settle here and build a life for yourself.
I'm afraid those aren't my plans. See, I already have a life.
At this point, PC gamers are pretty much used to having to wait a little while longer to play a Rockstar game. San Andreas was pushed back 8 months, GTA 5 and Bully were released nearly 2 years later, and GTA 4 was released 6 months later, but we all know how that ended, don't we? Seeing how Rockstar releases games, it wasn't far-fetched to expect Red Dead Redemption to come to PC sooner or later, but, well, it's been nearly 7 years, and the next Red Dead we're going to see is a console-exclusive sequel. Apparently, the production of Red Dead Redemption wasn't a smooth process. The game was in development since 2005 and was shaping up too slow to be optimistic about. In 2008 and 2010, we heard of some problems tied to the management of the project, due to which Rockstar drastically went over the budget. Some houses from Rockstar even declared that the production was a nightmare that keeps coming back. Seeing how troubled the development was, it's a miracle the final product ended up as one of the best open-world games ever released. Sadly though, it were those troubles in the production that sealed the port's fate, and nearly 2 years after the travesty that was the PC version of GTA 4, Rockstar didn't want to get their hands dirty once again either. Even though the studio seems to be back to supporting PCs, with GTA 5 still selling really well on the platform, we never got, and it seems we never will get, a PC Red Dead Redemption. Let's just hope that the upcoming sequel won't share its predecessor's fate. Okay, that's it guys. If you know any more interesting stories of troubled developments of PC ports, please let us know in the comment section below. As always, I'm Jordan, thanks for watching and see you soon.